Right, and especially here, we want to do this because all of us as Christians, I bet, say we love people. And I'd say probably most of us in this room would try to say that we genuinely love our enemies. And so we all agree we want this or we should do this, but the question we really have to ask is, but how do we actually do it? Right? I mean, or better said, how do we genuinely, in our hearts, the hearts that only God sees and we see to some degree, how do we truly love our enemies more? And in answer to that, above all, it needs to be said that we do, church, need the supernatural power of Jesus himself by his Spirit in order to do that. And that's true. So we need to know, we need to rely on him. And yet still, at the same time, in order for us to all try to put this more into practice, I do think we can look at Jesus' logic here, if you will, in this paragraph, to help us sort of form a game plan for how we might now go from here and start to love our enemies more. And use this if it helps. But for me, again, just looking at Jesus' logic and what he says here, as I studied this week, I came to see that there might be a sort of way here that we can put all this into practice. And so again, to apply this, here's just a 3-step game plan we can each enter into to actually love our enemies more. A 3-step game plan. First, number 1 is to actually from here on out, from this morning, start to pray for your enemies. Pray for your enemies. And we start there, well, because that's the first thing that Jesus mentions right away after talking about loving our enemies. But then also, we start here because praying for these people will make us identify them in our minds, and it'll help us perhaps start to feel love for them. And so that's the first step we should all do. Pray for your enemies. Which then leads to step number 2. And that's number 2. As you're praying about them or just thinking about them, then also take the time to realize that God truly does love them. God really loves them. And that's a profound thought because God is real. He exists. And in a sense, Jesus invites us here into the heart of God. And what do we see? Well, we see that God, towards his real enemies, guess what? He loves them right now. And that means God really loves whoever our enemies are as well. And so that's step number 2, because that'll help us feel, well, if God, who sees everything going on way more than even I do, if he loves them, then I should as well. Which then leads to step number 3 in this 3-step game plan. And that's then number 3, from that prayer and from that knowledge of God's love, it's to then go and actually seek to love whoever we're thinking of, right, in our lives. And I think that'll help us as well because we might just pray for them and know God's love them, but we might not want to do anything about it. But Jesus says, no, go and actually do something about them. Love them for their good and for your good and because it is your purpose as a Christian. And so all that said, church, let's just make it our aim to do this more. Let's heed Jesus' call to once again, not just tolerate or be neutral toward or say we love those against us, but church, let's actually seek to love our enemies.